Right now, inside some of the biggest companies in America, consultants are being paid a lot of money to answer one quiet question. Not how to sell more, not how to beat a rival, how to handle Gen Z. Corporations are running practice drills for employee walkouts. Governments overseas have started writing police plans, actual step-by-step plans, for what to do if their young people pour into the streets. Stop and think about how strange that is. The most powerful people on earth, the ones who control the money, the headlines, the armies, are spending real time and real money preparing for a generation of broke 20-somethings with phones. You don't prepare for people you aren't afraid of. So here's the only question that matters tonight. And once you see the answer, you can't unsee it. What do they know about Gen Z that Gen Z doesn't know about itself? Let's start with the most ordinary place imaginable. A Burger King in a small town in Nebraska in the summer of 2021. One morning, the entire staff quit, all at once. And on their way out, they changed the big sign in front of the store to read, "We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience." Somebody took a photo. It got a few thousand likes. A funny little story, gone by the weekend. Except it wasn't little. Because over the next several months, millions of Americans did the exact same thing. They called it the Great Resignation. People walked out of jobs with nothing else lined up. No new offer, no backup plan, just done. And the most shocking part wasn't that they left. It was that they left into nothing, and still felt it was the better deal. The people in charge had an easy explanation. They said this generation was lazy, soft, entitled. They didn't want to work. But here's the problem with that story. You don't walk away from a game you think you can win. You walk away from a game you've realized is rigged. What looked like quitting was actually the first small crack in something much bigger, a tremor before the earthquake. And to feel the full size of that earthquake, you have to stop looking at the people who quietly walked out and look at what this same generation did in other countries when walking out wasn't enough. In the last 2 years, something happened that the history books are not ready for. Across 3 continents, young people didn't just protest their governments, they erased them. In Bangladesh, a nation of 170 million people in South Asia, a prime minister who had ruled for 15 years fled the country in a helicopter as young crowds closed in. In Nepal, a small country in the Himalayan mountains, the government banned social media, and within 48 hours the parliament building was on fire, and the prime minister was gone. And here's the detail that says everything about who we're dealing with. To pick their next leader, the young protesters held a vote on Discord, a group chat app built for gamers. A nation's future, decided in a chat room. It didn't stop there. Indonesia, Peru, the Philippines, Madagascar, Morocco, the same fire, jumping from country to country. Even in India, Gen Z turned a harsh insult into a political force. After a top judge called critical youth parasites, students reclaimed the label and created the viral cockroach janta party. Soon, thousands took to the streets in massive rallies, protesting widespread exam paper leaks. And flying over many of these crowds was the same flag, a skull in a straw hat, borrowed from a Japanese cartoon about pirates who refused to bow to a corrupt government. Now here's what terrifies the powerful about all of this. There was no leader to arrest, no headquarters to raid, no organization to ban. For all of history, that's how you stopped an uprising. You grabbed the people at the top and cut off the head. But you can't arrest a hashtag. You can't behead a group chat. This new kind of revolt has no head. It's a swarm, thousands of faceless phones, organizing in hours, deciding by vote, appearing out of nowhere and winning before the government even knows who to look for. And the final twist is the cruelest one for those in charge. Every single tool they spent 100 years building to control people now works against them. They shut off the internet to stop the crowd, and the shutdown becomes the reason the crowd doubles. American leaders watched all of this happen. So did American CEOs. And they all quietly asked the same question. What happens when it comes here? Because the anger that lit those streets overseas, the young people here feel it too. They just haven't struck the match yet. So let's talk about that anger, because it isn't random and it isn't about being spoiled. For generations, every young American was sold the same simple promise. Work hard in school, get the degree, land the job, buy the house, retire comfortable. That was the deal. That was the deal that built the American middle class. Gen Z did their part. In fact, they're the most educated generation in American history. And somewhere along the way, the deal was quietly canceled, while they were still playing by its rules. A college degree used to be a ticket to a home. Today, more than half of recent graduates are still searching for full-time work. They work the same long hours their parents did, sometimes longer, for a paycheck that buys a fraction of what it used to. A pension, the thing that once guaranteed a safe old age, is now something they read about in history. Their health insurance is tied to their job so tightly that getting sick at the wrong time can wipe out everything. One young man said it on camera, screaming with frustration.
Most older people have no idea what it's like to work over 40 hours a week and still not be able to afford a home.
That video got 16 million views. The top comment just said, "Finally, someone said it." Even the winners feel it. A group of young analysts at Goldman Sachs, one of the most powerful banks on Wall Street, the kind of job people dream about, secretly put together a report showing they were working 98 hours a week. The dream job was a machine that ate them alive. So no, this generation is not refusing to play. They've simply figured out the game is rigged. It's like being taught how to win at chess your whole life, and then sitting down to discover everyone's playing poker, and the rules you memorized are worthless. And here is the thought that should send a chill up the spine of every powerful person watching. You cannot threaten a generation with, "You'll lose everything," when they were never handed anything to lose. A person with nothing to lose is the one person on earth that money cannot control. And that brings us to the part the people at the top already understand. The part most of Gen Z hasn't realized yet. This generation isn't just angry, it's the most powerful generation that has ever existed. Start with raw size. Gen Z is now the single largest generation on the planet, around 2 billion people. That's roughly 1 out of every 4 humans alive. In the United States, they've already passed the baby boomers in the workforce, and within 10 years, they'll make up half of all workers in the country. And the money is coming too. Within about 5 years, Gen Z is expected to earn a combined $36 trillion a year. On top of that, the largest transfer of wealth in human history is about to begin, as aging boomers pass down tens of trillions of dollars to the generations below them. Now put those two facts side by side, the way a billionaire's advisor does. On one side, a generation that controls the numbers, the votes, and soon the money. On the other side, that same generation is angry, locked out of the life it was promised, and has just watched people exactly like them delete entire governments from a phone in a single weekend. That combination has never existed before in history. Never. The most powerful people on earth aren't afraid because Gen Z is powerless. They're afraid because they did the math first. And the math says this is the most dangerous political force the modern world has ever seen. And it's only just waking up to its own strength. So the question for the powerful became very simple. If you can't make this generation happy, how do you keep it under control? The answer is not what most people expect. It isn't a grand evil plan in a dark room. It's quieter than that, and far more clever. There are 3 ways to control a generation you can't satisfy, and all 3 are happening right now. The first is to distract them, keep them scrolling, keep the feed endless, the outrage constant, the dopamine flowing, so that energy that could go toward changing the system gets burned arguing with strangers online instead. A generation exhausted by its own phone is a generation too tired to march. The second is to discredit them. Take the word Gen Z and quietly turn it into an insult. Lazy, entitled, woke, fragile. Because if you can convince the world that their anger is just a personality flaw, then nobody has to actually answer it. You never have to debate whether the system is broken if you can blame the people complaining about it. They become a punching bag instead of a problem to solve. And the third way is the oldest one. When you can't make people happy and you can't fool them anymore, you prepare to contain them. The walkout drills, the monitoring of online chats, the police plans being written right now in major cities for the day the streets fill up. But here's what we want you to notice. The one thing missing from all three of these strategies. Not a single one of them involves actually fixing the problem. Not one offers this generation the future it was promised. Distract them, dismiss them, or control them. Anything except give them what they were owed. And the reason is brutally simple. Giving them that future would cost the powerful something real. And the entire point of power has always been never having to pay. The drills are still running. The plans are still being written. The most powerful people on earth are quietly studying a generation that doesn't yet know its own strength. That's the whole story. One world gives orders from the top down. The other moves like a swarm from the bottom up. Only one of them is built for the century we're walking into. They're not afraid of Gen Z because they think it's broken. They're afraid because, for the first time, the people at the bottom have the numbers, the tools, and the nothing left to lose to rewrite the rules. And every empire in history learned the same lesson, too late. Sooner or later, you are toppled by the generation that decides the deal it was handed isn't worth keeping. So the only question left is how this one ends. Do they get bought off, shut down, or do they finish what they started? And if you're watching this and you're under 30, understand something. They have already counted you. The only real question is whether you know your own number yet.
If you want the truth before everyone else does, subscribe and stay with us.